that make it exclusive. This for members only, you're probably not included. First watch finest, I only hang with shooters. If I pop out with this cannon, then we gon' make a movie. Yeah. I come through a gang on them and bang on them. Hanging out the window and put that flame on them. Anybody get these bullets ain't got names on them. Would you like to subscribe, then hit the play button? Yeah.
As well, but I feel like it's also ability. I don't feel like Suge is able to write and land haymakers like Chess is. So with that being the case, I don't feel like it would be as difficult for Chess to, let's just say he's not motivated, which I don't think that's the case. I think he is motivated, but let's just say he's not. I think it's easier for him to slip up and come with some fire shit or deliver it in a way like that easy come, easy go last Summer Madness. When he delivered it, it wasn't just that bar. It was the way he delivered it, which sold it for me. So I think it's much more possible and probable that Chess will just be Chess. And I don't think Suge has the ability to match that writing-wise or land that type of haymaker. So for that reason, I feel like the only debate here is going to be if Chess won 2-1 or 3-0.
So
that's just my personal opinion.
So I'm not.
My quick little small question in between that. My fault to cut you off, Lang, is just when the motivation word come up, right? I think that Chess is young, but we can't all agree that Chess is at the age where he would be at the age where he would feel some type of way about his calicos. But like with the level that he's at right now, Chess is a pro. Like he's young, but he's one of us. You don't think that he's motivated with his last showing from the way y'all talking about it?
Facts.
You don't think that his last showing would be enough motivation to handle somebody like at the level of Suge? Why is that
I do
motivation?
It is, but I'm saying it's not that he doesn't have motivation. I think it's a different level, right? And I feel like I agree with the point of like Chess is obviously more proficient when it comes to landing haymakers and landing bars, but Suge shakes the room too. And on top of that, I feel like, again, like it's a different type of like having to recircle because Chess I was on the live earlier with 3 Letterman earlier today. He talked about the process of having to recalibrate his brain to even prepare for Suge, whereas Suge is pretty much fresh and all he had to do was focus on Chess or whatever. So
how
I feel like
fresh? He just had 2 battles like back to back.
But I'm saying in terms of mentally, like it's like I mean, maybe Surf or any other battle can attest to this. It's way harder to like be focused and locked in for one opponent. And then all of a sudden you have to recalibrate your brain and focus on another opponent.
Listen,
whereas Suge is only.
I tell you this, he's hitting at 1,000% on the nose right now, and Ace in here right now. He could attest. Ace taught me that what it's called is the word I'm looking for is repetition. You know what I mean? Type shit. So it's like normally I battle once in a blue. Like when I start doing them 40 days shit, I just got a little more acclimated to being in that mood. Like
it's conditioning, yo.
Conditioning.
It's conditioning, yo.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you get to a point.
No funny shit.
It's literally conditioning. It's like you get to a point where you have it become like you gotta think about how much money niggas might be making doing this shit, right? Not to put nobody's numbers out there, but if a nigga getting the number every time, right, the motivation then becomes like, okay, it's not a matter of if I can do this, it's a matter of how I can do that. And that just literally comes from conditioning. Once your brain, anybody's brain can, especially when it comes to creativity. Go ahead,
think about it as a fan. As a fan, naturally, you would think with the way Lux and the Mook and the likes of those guys, with the way they, and Goods, and with the way they sit out, with what we talking about, you would think that they would come back on a higher upper echelon. But then when you watch somebody like a Danny Myers or a JC, they do that shit every week. Because it's way more conditioning. It's rinse and repeat. So it actually becomes easier.
A perfect example of that is we watched the Mook. We watched the Mook event. That's kind of crazy. The Drake event last year, and you get Lux, right? And Lux didn't have the normal prep time. He didn't have 3 months. He didn't have 4 months. He didn't have 5 months. He literally had a month and I think he had 6 weeks, and it affected him drastically. So much so that he felt like he wanted to take another battle. He came on record saying he wanted to take another battle, kind of like right after that one, because he didn't feel like he could give what he. It literally doesn't come down to is he able to come up with fire material. It's just, are you used to being able to do it at the level that you do it at consistently over the course of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 6 weeks?
Man,
like most
Ace
niggas
was my mentor. Ace was my mentor on this point for like literally like a month, like with after I battled John, I was going into Cal, and me and Ace just on the phone like probably like every day for like 2 weeks going into Calico type shit. And he like, yeah, nah, bro. Like literally saying the same shit. It's conditioning. Like once you get to like once your muscle memory, you just used to doing that consistent, and that's why it's become a little easier to get into that 30-day pocket, because your brain just become a little more. You start knowing how much time you got, how much time you don't got. When you ain't used to that, you'll drive yourself crazy.
Yo,
I mean,
and
you guys are kind of coinciding with what I'm saying in that regard, because
agreeing.
it's like for someone like Suge, who has battled like 4 or 5 times already, and is kind of in a rhythm, and it's kind of already. And another thing I think that people get from battling often is knowing what works, because I feel like there's trends in battle rap. There are certain things that resonate with a crowd or with a group of people at a certain particular moment, right? So I feel like he's starting to get a gist of like what works for him and how to maximize that. Whereas Chess only had a battle and a half, because he had the 1-rounder with Jack and the battle with Calico. And I'm not saying that Chess is going to be rusty, but like it's kind of like, as Surf like to say, it's kind of like basketball. If you already been on the court and you ran ones for like 3 or 4 times, and the person that just got off the bus and running his first runs, he's obviously going to be rusty. He's going to take him a minute to warm up. Whereas like a Chess.
So not to cut you off, right? I apologize for that, right? But to keep with that same analogy in terms of the conditioning, always remember, like when you're kind of like comparing the two artists, that you can also learn bad habits. So just because you're in condition to do something doesn't mean it's something that you should be conditioned to do. And remember, by definition, when you learn a habit, you're literally unlearning another one. So it's like, I say that to say, a nigga like, and not to say Suge is a lower level. He's a lower level writer in terms of like him and Chess. Like, he's a lower level writer. Like the material that he comes up with, although he may be able to memorize it fast, he doesn't rely on pen heavy material in order to get a point off or to hit a haymaker. I say that to say that Chess does.
Pen heavy. Go ahead.
Chess does. Yeah, Chess does. Chess is very pen heavy. Chess is very meticulous in terms of how he figures out what to say and how to say it. I say that to say, if you give people the same time period and they're both conditioned the same way, just because one of them is in the better condition or has been in the repetition of doing it, doesn't mean that he's able to produce the same high level material as the person that he's battling. Because styles make battles. I don't care how, there's no battle in a vacuum. Like Surf material against Calico might not have been the best material for John, and vice versa. Like his material versus John, we loved it. But if he put that against Calico might win. So material, the who you're battling is just as important as what you're saying in that battle. And I say that to say that if you're giving them the same time period and the same conditioning, who is able to produce the high level material and memorize it in the time that they're given?
My thing is,
my fault, Lang. That's a pivotal part in the battle that I think fans don't take into consideration, is that each battle is a different conversation. You know what I mean? Like if me and John been going at it for however long we going at it, what I gotta say to John is gonna be like this. When I'm talking to Geechee, and you know what I mean, all right, Geechee's champion of the year right now, our conversation is like this. So now, because your conversation changes, a fan might be looking for Twerk product work or John product work, you know what I mean? And battles could attest to that. And it's like, that's not what we here to talk about. You know what I mean? Like some people say like Cortez third, like, yo, why in your third round you didn't have more? They was expecting a conversation. Like certain battles call for certain conversations. And I don't think that people take that into consideration a lot.
Yeah. And so again, I feel like even Ace's point about having to unlearn habits kind of goes into why I'm also going with Suge, because it's like when a Chess is prepping for a daylight or whatever, there's a certain place he takes his brain to be like, okay, I'm gonna attack him this way, I'm gonna touch on this way, I'm gonna try to attack him from this aspect, right? So now he has to recalibrate his brain to like pretty much change what his attack and approach was to a Suge, whereas a Suge was starting off with a fresh slate going into the battle. I still think that like I'm not saying that Suge's gonna win clearly. I think this is gonna be a very, very close battle, but I do think that when it comes to motivation, as I mentioned before, having a fresh slate, and also just having like Chess having to recalibrate his brain to train for a different type of battle, you know, that puts him at a slight disadvantage compared to a Suge who has a fresh slate. So those are my cases for why I have Suge in the battle.
You know,
go ahead, bro. That's assuming that that's the actuality. Like those are all like educated. Those are, I like where you're going with it, but that's assuming that those things you're saying are true. You don't know, like, because another factor is the Chess and the daylight. The daylight battle was never booked, so who says he ever wrote? was never actually officially written, like book. It was never a contract. It was never money given in exchange for that. So who says he was actually writing? You know what I'm saying? Like, so assuming that those things that you're saying are accurate and they're true, that is a great point to make. But if they're not true, like, then what? Just looking at the actual skill sets of the artists and their histories without including like current circumstances, which we cannot prove or disprove. What are we saying?
To that point, I was actually going to say, I mean, it's actually topical and actually good to say. I was looking for a kind of like a battle for Suge that I think would be kind of a good basis about my general feeling of this battle. And ironically, his battle with Pat Stay is probably my favorite Suge performance. Suge was crazy during his Pat Stay battle. Like, I agree. That's arguably my favorite Suge battle. And the reason why is because Suge was doing everything that he could possibly do. He was using every tool in that toolkit, man. Suge had jokes. Suge had performance. His first round is crazy in terms of punches.
Angles as well.
His angles. Bro, he had his, and the thing is, additionally, his editing, which is, I think, I'm super big on editing. How you start and end your round. I hate rounds that end with like a throwaway line or whatever when they could have just cut that line out when they get this huge reaction. When Suge ends Pat Stay's or ends the second round with, I would pocket chuck you, but I might get poked by a syringe, and he just ends that's a fire edited round, concise. And I think to Ace's point, looking at the entirety of the skill set, Suge using all the tools in his toolkit when he's writing and everything on 10, I think that I still got chess, but I think it's close. I think this battle is actually be very close if that's Suge we get.
It's not tonight, but I feel like we're buying time. I don't know what's going on. We spent a lot of time on chess and Shotgun Suge when there's two other matchups that deserves a lot of attention. But first and foremost, shout out to Shotgun Suge. I just seen your video, 15 minutes of fame. Your magazine cover is coming either tomorrow. Shout out to Ref Nelson. We got you. Just relax. Pat Stay happened, so we got to push links back. Your covers will be dropping probably no later than Thursday, but probably tomorrow. Let's move up.
Danny versus Fonz.
Danny versus Fonz.
We missed that.
Yeah, we was gonna hop into that next.
I was trying to get to the shits. Danny versus Fonz. What we doing?
Set it off, J Smo.
This is a good battle. I was happy when it's booked. I think that the fact that it's kind of went from super fight, to New Orleans to this card has some people a little bit off. But if there was any battle that could have been pulled and rebooked for SM, the ones that were in conversation, I'm cool with this one. And it's going to be a punch fest. This is one of those that's hopefully really easy to enjoy. When you get puncher versus puncher, at the very least, you usually just get a solid battle, a good battle. A lot of times you get great or all-time great battles. And I think they're both top 10 and champion of the year talks, both been having great years. And I know there was a lot of talk for Fonz versus Nitty, but I think this is a good building block. I've been said that I don't think that Fonz is quite ready yet for Nitty. While he has put on a lot of work and he's clearly gotten better as times went on.
You see how
what?
Damn.
And I think that as time has went on, he's definitely gotten better. There's no question. I think he's the second best out of his UM1 class, but I want to see him have a great competitive 3-round battle with another top tier. I think performance rate versus other top tiers for me is usually a great indicator if a guy's ready to take that next step. And up to this point, he's got Av and JC. I know he has the 2 versus Ill Will and Calico 1-rounders in the middle of Ohio to add. But in terms of 3-round battles, he's had Av and JC. And I thought he was great in both. Thought he had a great second round versus Av. Thought he was decent versus JC. But I thought levels were shown in those battles. I have them both as clear losses for him, even though they were constructive. And for Danny's very motivated. He's an all-time great talent, in his own right.
Danny Knox.
And this is his SM debut. And I think that the stage used to be a problem for him.
That's crazy.
It's insane thinking about his resume and the fact that none of that's went down, on the event like SM. But I think that he's seen all